Well, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday, June 11th, here at Studio B in the Elmwood Media Complex. I'm Kevin Rouch. This is the Daily Scrum. Glad to have you alongside. Pretty quick today, we're going to be in touch with our favorite guest, Ed Francis from First Ohio Battery. He's going to help me make some sense of that game on Monday between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. So we're going to get in touch with him here in just a moment. But we do want to remind you that we will be talking later in this program, or at least tell you. I'm not sure we told you before. So we're telling you now that we are going to dig into the settlement of the 3 antitrust lawsuits against the NCAA. We're not going to really dig in today. I'm going to kind of skim the surface a little bit. We're doing some research right now to give you kind of a full report. I was a sports law. It was a instructor. I wasn't allowed to call myself a professor. I would do that when I didn't think anybody who knew about it was listening. I would call myself a professor, but I was an instructor of sports law. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But before we do that, we are going to get in touch with our good friend, Ed Francis. So Ed, be ready to pick up the phone out there. And once I know you have, Ed, are you there?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, you know what? Everything's working today.
Third time was a charm.
You know, how about that? So thank you for joining us. I know you've got a heart out today, so let's just get right to it, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard my mini rant yesterday, but
what was it? 9 days worth of penalty minutes, I think.
It was 3. Crazy. I mean, it was 35 penalties, 140 penalty minutes. You're right. It was that long. You're right.
It should. I'm with you on that, though. It shouldn't dissolve into that,
especially in the finals, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you've got all the eyeballs, a lot of people that you don't have during the regular season. Some people, casual watchers of hockey, may be coming over at some point, future season ticket holder, you know, all this stuff. And I don't think that's what they want to go to.
So this is, like you said, this is the one time of the year, by and large, that the casual fans will get into hockey. And I'm in a group chat. It's me and it's 3 other people. And they are all the exact person that you would describe.
Okay.
Casual hockey fans. And Monday night, it took over the group chat for a little bit. I set my phone down for 5 minutes and I came back and had, 75 messages. That's how the group chats work.
Yeah.
And it was all, Ed, why are they letting them do this? This is stupid. I can't believe this is happening. Why are they doing this? Aren't these supposed to be the best teams? Why do they need to do this? Why is this allowed? They were not fans.
Well, and so my feeling about it is that Edmonton tried to be Florida and failed. And in that process, became the second person in the fight every single time and gave, 11 power plays to Florida. Should be the other way around. That's what Edmonton does well. But they don't do it by picking fights. They do it by skating better than you. And you've got to have a penalty to stop them, right?
Yeah, they, as far as I am concerned, Edmonton did exactly what Florida wanted them to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And now
they're facing a a 3-1 hole if they can't figure it out
beat tomorrow. Yeah. And I should mention, sorry, didn't give you the full intro, but Ed is obviously a friend of our program, and we're very appreciative of that. He actually helps us behind the scenes a little bit, but not a little bit, a lot of it. We really it's a little bit in terms of your probably effort because you know how to do all these things, but you certainly help us out a lot, and we appreciate that. But he's got other gigs in life, one of which, and how I met Ed was working for First Ohio Battery. The Blue Jackets were silly enough to sit us side by side so that we could, chat and roll our eyes in sync at certain things. So,
yeah, and I requested after like the first week, I told them that you're going to have to get me a different seat, and they didn't. And I did that. I did that for your benefit, by the way. Yeah. And I said,
we have fun.
If I'm on an island by myself, and they said no.
Yeah.
No, we're going to put you next to humans.
And here's the
good people, and then sure enough, I end up next to you. So
and we're a bad influence because next to me is the Wunderkind, right? And Ian Phillips, who has taken over the Ohio Hockey Digest at the ripe old age of 18. In fact, I think he did it when he was 17. He's now maybe 18 or 19
now, I think. Though.
Yeah. So we can officially make fun of him without jail time. But he is silly enough to kind of listen to the two of us, I think. And that probably needs to be rectified.
Other times I think he tunes us out.
which would be incredibly smart. Okay, now, so
wise beyond his years.
Yes. Oh, well, that is without a doubt. So let's go back to Monday. And what really set the third period off was they decided, that being the Edmonton Oilers, decided that they were going to go after Sam Bennett, who had been, along with Brad Marchand, had been the two guys who were really playing well. And I think they thought they were going to make a statement when Trent, and I think he pronounces it Frederick, right? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
He goes after Sam Bennett from behind, which is just it's just a giveaway that you're doing it on purpose and you're trying to make a point. And it didn't go well after that.
It did not.
And you have how many different fights on the ice at that point?
I think the maximum amount you can have.
Yeah, no, that's right. Everybody was paired up, right? Yeah. So, and the one everybody had eyes on was Darnell Nurse and Jonah Godjovich. And that should have been stopped well before they ended. Would you agree with that?
So I said a few minutes ago, and you had mentioned yesterday, and we kind of talked about it again this morning, Edmonton failed. I think the officiating failed in that game as well. I think you're exactly right. It should have never got to that point. There should have been more intervention earlier, and I think you maybe would have curtailed the end of the game, the third period, not just the end of the game, the third period in particular.
It should never be. And then I remember the announcer who I thought was very good, but it should never be that you take players off the ice when it's I'm not saying that the game was close. It wasn't, but taking players off the ice to protect them. That seems like a stupid thing to have to do. Because people can't keep their tempers in check. I mean, I coached a little bit of football, and the discussion was always play hard between the whistles. It's controlled violence, right? But once the whistle sounds, you're done. And you have to learn how to control that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Monday was just, it's a good thing they had a very hard rule about people coming off the bench. And it's a good thing it didn't happen at the end of the game when everybody is off the bench.
Could have been a lot. It was, could have been a lot worse. So Jake Wallman, the defenseman for the Oilers, he was fined $10,000, $5,000 for two separate incidents, including what I thought. So there's me as a person, right? When he took his water bottle and sprayed it at the Florida bench,
Yeah.
you know, there's part of me that loves that.
That's silly. I mean, no one's getting hurt, right?
Well, yeah, but there's a bigger part of me that just thinks, to go back to what we were mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
You have all these eyes on you, and that's what you choose to do when you know all the cameras. And he said after the game, he's like, it was gamesmanship, and I should have realized there were cameras looking. But it's not one of those things that come off like it should be happening in a pivotal, tied Stanley Cup final series, tied at the time Stanley Cup final series.
Yeah, it was gamesmanship for a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Come on.
So who a little tacky. Like I said, as I'll say that, and then I'm also going to say there is the inner child in me.
That 10-year-old, right?
That loved it.
I wonder how, but if you did that as a 10-year-old, you'd get in trouble. I always think it's funny when you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you see stuff on the field, the court, the ice, the track, whatever, that you would, if you were coaching youngsters, and you would tell them, don't do that. That's just when you see the professionals do it, you just go like, really? And that was one of those, okay, let's get back to a professional. Let's elevate it just a little bit. And let me ask you, who is in net for the Oilers tomorrow, Skinner or Pickard?
To me, it's clear.
Yeah.
Skinner.
Okay.
Go with the guy that brought you there.
Or is it Picard, by the way? I this is where I suffer a little bit in knowing names.
Yeah. Well, there was many years ago, 20 years ago, I think, or right around there.
Yeah.
The Blue Jackets had Alex Picard. But this is Pickard.
It is Pickard. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going with Skinner.
Okay.
And I'm going with Skinner because he's helped get you there more than Pickard.
Yeah.
He was bad in game 3. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But he also was pretty good in games 1 and 2, all things considered.
Oh, I think so. I agree with that.
He gave up. You give up 5 goals in game 2, but you're also facing 42 shots against one of the best offenses in the league this season and over the last couple of seasons.
And 11 power plays,
and
by the
it
way.
was a double overtime. Yeah, and it was a double overtime.
Oh,
game.
right. Before,
in
the earlier one,
really,
right. Yep.
You would think in a game that goes to double overtime, with Draisaitl and McDavid, you would think like, man, guys, if you're Edmonton and you go into the first overtime of the game and you think, okay, if we can go these 20 minutes and not give up a goal, our offense is gonna find one.
Yeah.
We have 2 of the 5 or 6 best players on earth.
Yeah.
They can get us a goal at home, in game 2. They can get us a goal at home over the span of, how long into that double overtime was it? 5 or 6 minutes over the goal of 25 minutes, 26 minutes worth of overtime. Right. So I'm not going to put game 2 on him. 5 goals seems like a lot, but given the circumstances, you're up over 40 shots. And then he won game 1 for him. That's me. I wouldn't make the change. Yeah. He was bad in game 3, but you know what? Bad games are going to happen. And we saw what happened when there was a questionable goalie change by the Stars.
You get fired.
You get fired.
You get to go home if you're the coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Chris Knobloch.
Where are you on that?
Well, I think I'm with you because what I heard in Chris Knobloch's press conference after the game, he didn't feel that Skinner was the first on the list to blame for the amount of goals. And you and I have a lot of discussions about goalies and how the part they play for a team, not just on the ice, but off the ice. You and I have had a lot of those discussions. And I think Skinner is well respected by his teammates, number one. Number two, I I am pretty quick to blame goalies when they get beat and not look at the defense as much. But I'll tell you, that defense was awful in Game 3 in front of him.
The proverbial Swiss cheese.
Yeah, I mean, he had to go east-west so fast, so many times, and then kind of be faked out and have it come from someplace else. So that's when I don't really blame him. I think it's hard to have somebody who gets a reputation for not being great in the playoffs to try to come back. It will be really interesting what he does on, tomorrow and what the offense does in terms of just go skate, just go be fast, be the best players that you are. Don't try to get under their skin because they'll win. Now that they have Marchand on that team, there's no place in the Hall of Fame for that, but if there were, he would be the number one guy.
But they named the Hall of Fame after him. I think it's one of these things now where, the most annoying team in the NHL got the most annoying player at the deadline.
Yeah,
and like the mega powers, right? It's wild. But we kind of knew it would happen.
Yeah.
And I think that what Edmonton needs to do and what Knobloch needs to do is to just, watch a little bit of the Game 3 tape. Not much, but just enough to go, this is what happened when we played their game.
Yeah.
Let's get back to our game. Let's focus on what we're capable of doing.
Yep.
Because we're a good team. We were a game away from winning it last year, and we're back in it this year. We're clearly a good team. We won, 6 nights ago, or whenever Game 1 was.
Yeah. Long time ago.
7 nights ago. Yeah. And I think they get back to basics. Like you and I had talked about last week, I don't think they're going to win this series. I don't think Edmonton can win this series.
Yeah.
I
thought they could.
Florida in 6.
Yeah, but I'm doubtful now.
With Florida in 6.
Yeah.
But I think Edmonton can win one more. But I think that if they're going to do that, even they're going to have to play their game. I do expect Florida to still win tomorrow. I expect Edmonton to go win Game 5 at down 3-1 when Game 5 will be Saturday, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think Florida wins it at home in Game 6. I think that's what we're still looking at.
Yeah.
Home team wins the next 3 games. Florida wins their second consecutive cup, and we get that image of sad McDavid on the bench for the second straight game.
And then we start talking about the draft.
And then we start talking about the draft, which is not far away.
It really isn't.
3 weeks out.
And there's lots to talk about. So we got to start doing our homework on that. All right. Before I let you go, real quick, where are you doing trivia tonight?
Oh, doing trivia tonight at the filling station on Smoky Row.
What time's that start?
Technically in PAL. Starts at 7.
Okay. Do you know where I was last night?
The game this week.
Yeah.
Where were you last night?
At the filling station, thinking it was Wednesday.
Oh, there was music trivia there last night, I believe.
I believe you, but when I don't see you there, I just turn around and leave. Yeah. I love the filling station, but I made a point. Dragged my wife along, looked super stupid. And
you come by tonight. I'll buy you guys a sandwich or a drink.
Oh wow. Well, now that you said that, you may see me, and I may drag my wife along. By the way, her name is Carol.
Normally, they say better half. Let me one step further. I want to meet your what I can only assume to be drastically better.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, thankful every day. Thankful every 41 years in December.
That's
thankful every
longer
day.
Than I've been alive.
Don't need to be reminded. Okay.
By several years.
Stop. Filling station tonight. What's the official name? It's 614 Trivia? Trivia 614.
Trivia 614, yep.
Okay. Facebook. Go find them on Facebook because they do it more than last night. They were in Dublin, one of the places, and I whiffed. But hopefully we'll see you around tonight. I know you got to get out of here. Hey, we'll get you next week. One way or the other, we'll talk some more about stuff, okay?
Next Wednesday, I feel like we're talking about the Stanley Cup parade and Sunrise.
Well, if we are, we'll pick a place for me to buy you lunch. All right, as a result. I think that
Oh,
was
is
the
that
deal,
on bet?
right? Wasn't that the deal?
Oh, well, hey, twist my arm.
All right. Go be a person, and then I will. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon, my man. Appreciate all your help,
Hey,
by the way.
Thanks for sure. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I might see you later. We'll see.
Let's hope. Okay, Ed Francis.
All right.
See you, man. Bye.
Take care.
That is Ed Francis from First Ohio Battery, and I just want to remind you, because they're nice enough to let him hang out with me a little bit here. First Ohio Battery, what a great job Ed Francis does. You should go to their website. It doesn't really compete with C-Bus Sports, and I don't mean that like we're heads and shoulders, but we just do different things. We do some summaries and try to stay on top of some stories, and we've got some things planned for next season. But if you want to get the best, especially during the game, he does live updates. And if it's not in somebody else, I mean, they've always got somebody doing that at First Ohio Battery. They do a summary the next day, some great articles in between games and, in between seasons. So check them out. First Ohio Battery, they are related cousins with 11 Warriors. And you know how good 11 Warriors are covering Ohio State football. So Ed Francis, good to have him here. Maybe hang out at trivia night tonight out at the filling station. They need to be a sponsor now, I think. We'll get on that. We'll get the sales staff on that soon. All right. So we've got hockey tomorrow. We've talked about that. Now we're going to wait and see what happens. Tonight we get back in action on the national side with the NBA. They travel to Indianapolis for Game 3. The Thunder and the Pacers are knotted at 1-1. Tonight's game is in Indianapolis at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. It'll get underway at 8:30, and that'll be on ABC. So we'll talk more about that tomorrow when we see what happens. But it'll be interesting tonight. The thing I'm kind of looking for tonight is to see how quickly Tyrese Halliburton gets into the scoring column and how much in the first half. Because I think in game 1, when they stole the game, which they've done a bunch of times in these playoffs, he made his presence known without a doubt, and everybody's talking. He didn't play badly in game 2. He just didn't have the same kind of dominance, the same go-to-iveness. We'll coin that for a T-shirt. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just keeps playing at that high level. And if you're not going to match it, you're not going to beat him. That's just the way it is. So we'll see how Indiana puts pressure on SGA tonight. I don't think they can stop him. It's that proverbial, they only hope to contain him. But I think they need to put a little more pressure on him. Maybe give up 2-pointers to the rest of the team as well. And then just play fast. Just get up and down the court with Halliburton being the guy to run the show in transition. And just do it fast. Get good shots. Try to make them early. And see if they can hold court or hold the serve on their home court tonight. Again, 1-1 is the series. They play tonight. 8:30 in Indianapolis on ABC. You can see it if you don't drive over. Not that far away from us. Did it all the time. Went to Sky. I'm an Indiana University graduate, so I have been on that road a bunch. Let's take a look locally. One of the big, and it was big last night, was for the Clippers. They are in Buffalo taking on the Bisons. And the Clippers got a rally win last night with 2 runs, one in the 7th, one in the 9th, to win 4-3. But the player that is back is Will Wilson. And if you go out to the Clippers, if you're a fan and follow, Will Wilson at the beginning of this year was on a torrid pace at the plate. And so in late April 22nd to be exact, he went up to Cleveland. They needed some of that, but he just didn't quite get it done. I think he hit a 176 in the 24 games up there. That is not Will Wilson, by the way. I don't know what happened or how they pitched him, but that is not his style. And he showed that on Tuesday, coming back down, going into Buffalo. He had 2 home runs, knocked in 3 of the Clippers' 4 in the Clippers' victory there. So Will Wilson is back. The other development last night. So if you go away from our little show today, there are going to be 2 names. Will Wilson being one of them. He's back. Hit 2 home runs last night. Helped him win the game. The other guy that helped him win the game last night is Aaron Davenport. And this guy, young guy, came up during midseason. We are at midseason a little bit before. He had his 4th start last night. He is a guy that can pitch, but he got just racked out in his first start, gave up 3 runs in the first inning, got pulled. Next start gave up 3 runs in the first inning. They left him in. He did better. His 3rd start, even better. And last night in his 4th outing, he went 5 innings, gave up just 1 run on 3 hits. Not really a strikeout guy, but he will move the ball around in the zone and has several different pitches he can throw for strikes. He did not figure into the decision again. He is now, he's still 0-0. But his earned run average is now down around 6. And when you start at 27, 6 is great. So he is another guy they're going to be able to count on, I think, coming down the stretch as we go, later on into September, August and September. I like him. I think he's got it. I think sometimes he gets a little, especially when you get hit early, you tend to want to stay away from the strike zone because you don't want to get hit anymore. And he now has figured out how to get back in there and get guys out, and he did that last night, and that is a really good sign for the Clippers. The bullpen did give up the lead, but then a couple guys came in and did really well. Matt Crook, who they got not too long ago, a few weeks ago, from the A's, he picked up his first win in AAA this year. Pitched 2 scoreless innings in relief, and so he's 1-0. And the save, I'm just trying to. We have all this in our story. Oh, it was Nick Mikolajczyk. I hope I said that right. I listened to Ryan Mitchell. I should pay attention to that pronunciation. But Nick retired the 3 batters he faced in the 9th to get his 4th save. So you had some really good people. But take it away on this. Will Wilson's back, hitting well. He's still hitting .333 combined with his earlier stint with the Clippers and last night. And then the other guy we want you to remember is Aaron Davenport, the starting pitcher. It just keeps getting better and better. And has been last year and a half with Akron has pitched really, really well. The Clippers and the Bisons play game 2 tonight. 6:35 is the start. And it'll be Doug Nikhazy, who's been up with the Guardians a couple of times. He's 3-3 on the year. He'll be taking on Lazaro Estrada, who's 1-3 for Buffalo. And I'm going to be listening. I'll be on the front porch. Nice day today. I'll be on the front porch listening to Ryan Mitchell on 9:20 a.m. That's Fox Sports 920. 6:35 comes on maybe 10 minutes early to give you a little pregame and then off to the races. And I'll be listening in tonight. But good to see them on that winning side. Okay. This week is the last week for state competition at the Ohio High School Athletic Association level. We've got a story in addition to that Clipper story I just told you about, which is our lead story today. But we've got a story about the 3 area baseball teams heading to the state tournament, and one of them starts tomorrow. In Division 7, Newark Catholic will play Tiffin Calvert. Newark Catholic is 21-9. Tiffin Calvert 27-3. They will play, and there's 2 venues for the state semis. They will play at Canal Park in Akron at 1:00 tomorrow afternoon. So Newark Catholic and Tiffin Calvert. 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon at Canal Park. The other venue, and Canal Park's been used the last number of years, but the other venue, which I know well because I did announced a lot of games on the radio here in the Frontier League, the Independent League, is Thurman Munson Memorial Stadium in Canton. I think it's right off of 77 up there. And so Division I, Olentangy will play, just make sure we get everything right, Saturday. Olentangy Braves will play Lakota West. Olentangy's 26-7. Great competition here in Central Ohio. That is a great record. Lakota West, the Firebirds are 24-8. And they will play Saturday at 4 o'clock at Thurman Munson Memorial Stadium. If you're going to watch, take some seat cushions, those that people use in the stands, because those aluminum bleachers are rough. Maybe they've changed them since I was there. And I only know that they're rough because they made a lot of noise when people got going and stomping their feet. But I would recommend, in that situation, that you take a cushion up. And again, that's Olentangy playing Lakota West, Saturday, Thurman Munson Memorial Stadium at 4 o'clock. All right, last one of the three, Division II. It'll be New Albany at 20-9, taking Amherst Steel on. The Comets, who are 23-2. That will be on Friday at Thurman Munson at the unbelievable hour of 10 o'clock in the morning. Get up there early. Understand that the sun may not be your friend if it is out. Although the way the weather's gone for its rain is always around the corner this spring and now heading into the summer. But again, New Albany in Division II taking on Amherst Steel. That's with an E at the end. And they will play Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning at Thurman Munson Memorial Stadium. And when all is said and done, we will have a wrap-up story for you to let you know how those three teams did, representing the Central Ohio, what we call appropriately the C-Bus area. And we'll let you know all about it. Also starting today and working its way into the weekend, the Ohio State Buckeye Track and Field, some of their folks who made it through the first round of the NCAAs, they'll be in the finals, and that all gets underway in Eugene, Oregon, starting today, and they'll be on ESPN. And if you have ESPN Plus, it's also on there. I don't know that anybody's going today. I think it starts around 7 o'clock our time. But certainly going into the weekend, there will be, and again, we have a story on the front page of C-Bus Sports. You see a picture of Mason Lewis there from Bexley. He will be, as a sophomore, going to the NCAA Nationals. He's on that 4x400 relay team. And some other, DJ Fillmore will be doing the long jump. He's out of Licking Heights. Denzel Fegan, I wish I get that right. I'm sorry, Denzel, if I'm mispronouncing that. Well, I'm sure I am if I give two versions. He's in the men's 4x100 relay. And along with Mason Lewis in the 4x4 is Noah Carmichael, who went to Cristo Rey here in town, just right downtown. And so those are the local people that'll be in it, but we have the list there of the 15 athletes that are in Eugene as we speak, getting ready for events through the weekend. So good luck to all of them, and we hope you'll check out that story so you can cheer. All right. Let's go to, so here's what I want to tell you. There's been a lot of discussion this week because of the settlement, 3 lawsuits going on with the NCAA by athletes and schools involved as well, the big conferences involved as well. And they've all collectively been known as House versus the NCAA. Grant House, that's who the House is, the plaintiff in this, is a former Arizona State swimmer. There are other involved, but his name just happens to be first as the plaintiff, so that's in the lead case, arguably. And so that's how this whole legal thing developed as House versus NCAA. I, as I mentioned at the start, was an instructor, and Columbus State still would be if you needed help. I did it for a number of years, had a good time over there. Just a part-time gig, and they've got full-time people. That's how that rolls. But one of the things that we talked about, and I told people, the students in the classroom, that this is going to be the most boring. I led with this. I'm not sure it's the right way to go about it. It seemed to work. That this is going to be the most boring subject that you will ever have in your college career, and that is antitrust. Because when people hear that, number one, they go, I don't know what it is. And you shouldn't. There's no reason that you should know. And it just sounds, even to lawyers, it sounds boring. So let's do a few terms, because here's what we're going to do. We're diving into this in a way that on Monday, on our program Monday, we are going to attack most of these issues. We're going to spend some time to explain exactly what's going on. But it's going to take a little bit of research. It's going to take a little bit of investigation so that we can explain it properly. And frankly, learn what's going on at the edges here, because we've just seen the headlines like everybody else. So, antitrust. Anytime you hear that word as you read the articles, instead of antitrust, throw in the word competition, because that's what antitrust is all about. I mean, it was originally enacted as a federal law by Congress to take on big businesses that were monopolies. We, in a capitalist society, we like competition, and that's why sports is such a great analogy for this, and why it now is kind of at this point that we can explain it in the antitrust world, because antitrust is about competition. It wants to make sure there is competition. Back in the day, Theodore Roosevelt running around, they wanted to make sure that the oil trust was busted up. They didn't like monopolies. So eventually, the trusts were busted. And then later on in life, as we get to my lifetime, you saw, for example, the Standard Oil really then had to break apart their monopoly. And, that's when you had, like, in Ohio, we had Sohio. You had other brands, Amoco, elsewhere in the Midwest, and so on. And so you bust those up so there's a competition so that prices don't go too high. That's the idea. It's why the phone company, when I was a kid, there was the phone company. And eventually, when you bought a phone, you had to go to the phone company, which is why they had no reason to innovate how those things looked. And so you had that crazy rotary dial. But anyway, they busted that up. We had different phone companies then for different regions, which eventually morphed into cell phone companies, and now wireless is how we identify them. But that was all about competition. One of the latest things that happened was when Sirius satellite radio and XM wanted to merge, they had to get permission to do that because people were worried about that becoming a satellite radio monopoly. But eventually the FTC, who controls a lot of this, Federal Trade Commission, they said, we're going to let you merge Sirius and XM because there's other people that are competing with you in the market. You may be the only satellite radio, but there are other ways that people get their streaming that are in competition with you, so we're going to let you do that. So anytime you're going to merge two big companies, airlines, banks, whatever it is, you have to go get permission. Now, this is a little different because the FTC is not involved in or at least not at the last level that we kind of watch this. But what competition are we talking about here with the NCAA? Well, it's not only competition, companies competing with each other to keep prices down and protect the public. It's also competition for workers. So if your ability to earn a wage or stipend or fee or whatever you want to call it, people can't compete for your services. It keeps your wage down. And in the case of the NCAA, for a long time, it was basically you could get a scholarship. But it was pretty much capped at that. A lot of exceptions. But that's what happened. Then the Supreme Court came along 4 years ago, changed everything by saying that athletes could receive money in college and keep their eligibility. And that's when NIL started. But the 3 lawsuits that have gone on now are talking about getting money from, NIL does not come from the school. It comes from outside businesses. And we know what that is now. It's crazy numbers. People are staying in college because they're going to make more there than they will as a rookie, for example, in the NFL. So you go for another year. And in other sports, that's happening all the time. So the idea is now athletes, this settlement is going to allow them to get money through the school. And so that changes the landscape because now schools are going to be involved. It hasn't really been worked out. There's a commission that's been put together that are going to work out the details. So that's still early on. But given this, and if there is a cap on what you can do inside the school, will that mean that schools will have to eliminate sports because it won't fit within that budget? And that's the question. You have some schools like Ohio State and Stanford that offer, 36 sports. Harvard offers some crazy number, like 42 or more. Some of those are scholarship sports. So a little bit different. But you've got all this stuff. So here's what you got to know. You got to know, what is this when you hear House versus NCAA? That's the lawsuit that basically said the NCAA can't keep colleges from paying their athletes. And so there were 3 suits. They combined them. They have a settlement now. And we'll go through the details of that on Monday as we do this research. Try to do it in a way, and we'll break that fourth wall, that slide that you see now. That's Will Wilson from the Clippers on there, by the way. We talked about him. But the slide, we'll work through that with some ways to understand it. Because this is going to change everything. The other phrases you want to know, CBA, that's collective bargaining agreement. That's when the athletes are employees, which has not been stated about college. In fact, we'll talk about that in a second. But when you hear CBA, that's a collective bargaining agreement. And that's what we see in professional sports and in other union-based work environments. That's the agreement that says this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to interact as employer and employee. And in the case of like the car manufacturers, those are huge agreements. Employee, what is that going to mean? Will college athletes be employees? The colleges don't want them to be, because that brings in the possibility of them bargaining, because employees are allowed to form a union and allowed to bargain. So colleges don't want that. And right now, Congress is looking at that, and will they pass a law that says that college athletes, somehow they'll work out some exemptions from the laws that govern this sort of thing, because employees are determined about how much control an employer has over them. If that's a certain amount, they're an employee, not an independent contractor, not any other designation. But you can change that by law. And will Congress get involved to do that? Well, they're going to get involved, and they already are involved. And that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The last thing that we'll talk about today is Title IX, because Title IX plays a part in this. Title IX, and by the way, is not a sports law. Title IX is not a sports law. It is an education discrimination law. It says that it prohibits discrimination. I'll just kind of look here and get the exact verbiage. prohibits discriminating on the basis of sex. So it's a sex discrimination law. And educational programs or activities, not just sports, educational programs or activities that receive federal financial assistance. There are some colleges that do not take any federal financial assistance so that they don't have to play by Title IX. I don't know if it's still the case. I'm assuming it's still the case. Hillsdale College in Michigan is one of those schools that over time had done that. So now, if Title IX is still involved and you've got to get rid of sports, you have to think about the numbers of the sports that you're going to get rid of because they might be violations of Title IX. What results? Now, the University of Kentucky has been involved in litigation to try to define discrimination in a way that's more favorable to the university, and they won. At the lower federal level, I don't think it's made its way to the Supreme Court, but we'll look at that as well to see what impact that all has. I guess the point of all this is we'd like to know exactly, kind of reduce it down to its simplest form to understand exactly what this settlement is going to mean for college sports, period. And especially since Ohio State's so prominent, has so many sports under the NCAA, how will they go about it? And, we've seen some language from Ohio State that they'd like to keep all those sports. We'll talk about that. See if they're going to be able to do that. Okay, so that's coming up Monday. But remember those terms: antitrust, think competition, CBA's collective bargaining agreement, but with employees. Is an athlete going to be an employee? Will Congress redefine that? And finally, Title IX, which says you can't discriminate in any educational program, but since sports is one of those, how will that be defined with the current litigation going on as well? And will that help determine which sports stay, which go? All right. That is and I'm sorry, maybe I got your eyes to glaze over on antitrust, but that's how it plays out. Well, again, we're going to break that down because as fans, we need to understand that. We need to understand that decisions are going on. Why did you get rid of this? Why did you not be able to get this player? We want to be able to understand that. And that's what we're going to work on. All right. Let's move on and just get the heck out of here. Again, thanks to our friend Ed Francis. But trivia today. Yesterday we asked, based on the scrum, and that's a word we love around here, the scrum that happened between hockey players on Monday night. What NHL player had the most penalty minutes in their career? Which NHL player had the most penalty minutes in their career? And the answer to that is a fellow by the name of Tiger Williams, who had 3,971 minutes in the penalty box, in the sin bin. Tiger Williams, I think that's how many minutes the other night. No, it was 140, but you get to 3,900 pretty quick. But interesting about Tiger Williams, he was 5'11" in his playing time, 5'11", 190 pounds. And apparently, pretty tough customer, I would have to imagine. Because in those days, they called him goons, but Tiger Williams was a good hockey player. I mean, there are constantly campaigns for him to be in the Hall of Fame. He is not. He was a first-round draft pick by Toronto. And it wasn't because that's all he did was fight. He was a pretty good hockey player too, but he did fight for sure. Now, kind of a bonus question is, who had the most penalty minutes who is actually in the Hall of Fame? What Hall of Fame NHL player has the most penalty minutes? And the answer to that is Chris Chelios, who, talk about being a really good hockey player. He was a fantastic, he's in the Hall of Fame, I guess. But he was among the elite of the elite. But he wasn't afraid to toss the gloves aside and go at it as well. So there you go. Now, again, we're our question today, since we're talking about the Ohio State being out in Eugene to take on everybody else in the NCAA Division I final track and field meet. Let's look and see. No one's in the pole vault. So our question today is, we're going to whip down through this. What is, and actually, we have a tie between three individuals. So you can only name three. What is the pole vault record for college? And see if you can give me one of the three that are tied at that mark. And again, you can look it up. We know that. That's what we did. But what can you make some guesses? This is a tough one. I agree. This is a tough one. But that is our question today. And we'll ask it one more time. What is the current college record for the pole vault? And asking you to name one of the three people that did it. All right? Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to tomorrow. Lots of stuff. NBA tonight. Hockey tomorrow. We'll find some other stuff too. Still working on those prizes for our Ohio High School track and field winners of our categories. Maybe we'll mention that again tomorrow. In the meantime, we hope you enjoy this great day outside. Go see some sports. Support those high school guys playing baseball. They'll be doing it in Akron and Canton this weekend. But we'll be back tomorrow. In fact, we're out an earlier time tomorrow. Gosh, should have mentioned that up front. Earlier time tomorrow, we will be on at 2 o'clock because of some commitments we made a long time ago. So 2 o'clock is game time tomorrow here on the Daily Scrum. We'll talk to you then. For the Daily Scrum, I'm Kevin Rouch. Good afternoon, everyone.